Good morning, everyone. It's 8 a.m. on Saturday. This is my first stream. I'm going to be doing some Lego designing this morning. I appreciate anybody who's jumping in right now. And I know it's early, but this is usually my time for doing projects and things. My girlfriend's asleep, the house is quiet. I've been putting off designing a couple ships because I wanted to kind of build up a backlog and do some stuff in studio and have some people watch. So if you're interested, thanks for joining. I may not do just designs. This is also going to be, if I get some sets I can build. Once I get the parts in from Bricklink, I can put those together. I've got a couple microfighters already done, some Star Wars microfighters. Bless you, Allie. If you haven't been watching, I've got a couple designs already done, like the Tanta V4. This isn't really my design. It's by a artist that I found on Flickr. I adapted a little bit, did some reverse engineering on it, but it turned out pretty well. It's a little fragile. There's some things that don't go too well on it, but that works out pretty well, I think. This is also one of mine. It's a Republic Y-Wing. It's basically the front end of the actual Y-Wing that Lego has done, and then I just adapted it for the Clone Wars version, Republic era Y-Wing with Ahsoka. I've got a couple others. Just if I can get them out. I'm in what is affectionately known as my Lego room, but it's just the foyer of our house. So here's another one, and I have to. Oops. I've got these all in Ziploc bags because I've got nowhere else to put them really. Yeah, this one's. A lot of these that I built in the studio are a little fragile, so they tend to fall apart when I store them, but I need to find the little laser cannon for this. But this is a V19 Torrent. Lego actually did a full-size set of this one, so I did a microfighter version. It's missing this. I got to get it out of the bag. But this is one of my favorites so far because it actually has the swept-up wings. And it's got a little bit of engineering on it that I like, where this actually swivels up to a little clip in the back that you can clip on for it to be in its landing position. And then when it lands again, it's got one of these like 2x2 bracket or 2x2 with studs on the other side. So, but again, these are a little fragile. They're good for display. That's kind of it. And then I've got another one. Should have prepped this a little better. This is my, if you guys have played Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the EA version. This is the Corvus. This is Iden Versio's ship. And I don't know if they're actually going to do a full version of this. They did a battle pack, and that's where you get the Iden Versio figure, which is, she comes with hair because the back, if you put a helmet on her, it's got that little face on it, which is kind of silly, but, so that's another one I did. I've also done a home one, which I think I'm going to redo because it's not my favorite. These little guys aren't as tight as I want them to be, the little command post things, especially this one, because it's on a Technic pin. But that's the home one from Return of the Jedi. It could be a little more white and tan, a little less gray and tan, but in the movie it looks pretty gray. So that's why I did it. There's some people who have done designs that are a little more tan. So there's another one, and I really should have prepped these, but let's see if I can get this going. This is from the video game Force Unleashed. This is what's his name? It's like Galen Merrick or something. He's also called the Apprentice or Star Killer. And there's a couple little doodads missing some guns and stuff, but this is the ship that he flies. It's called the Rogue Shadow. Lego actually did a set of this as well. I particularly like this part in the back, the little venting thruster area. It turned out pretty well. It's a little finicky to build, but it turned out pretty well. So those are the ones that I've designed that I've actually built. I've got a list of, if you haven't been paying attention on Instagram or the Star Wars Facebook fans group, I've got a list of about 150 sets that I'm building. That's 170 actually that I've been building or designing, and I want to get them all built, so it's going to take a while. I also have all the regular store-bought versions of Lego Microfighters, with the exceptions of 2. I think I haven't finished yet, and I've been bricklinking those out. So I also have here's the list that I'm going off of. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's a pretty big list. So this is the ones. These are the ones that, you know, Star Wars has, or the Lego group has put out, and then these are the ones that I've actually designed. So you can see it's a pretty big list, and these are all available on Google Drive for sharing if you'd like. I'm also putting all the instructions on Rebrickable as I get to them, and I've got about 40 instructions up there already. But as you can see, this is a pretty big list. It's going to take me a while to get through all these to build them. Now this list, I've found a bunch online that I've reverse engineered from microfighters that I built, or I found off Flickr or other sites. Eurobricks had a contest about 5 years ago where everybody built their own microfighters when the themes first came out. And so I grabbed a bunch of those and reverse engineered those. And those are hard to do if you're just looking at a single photo. It's hard to figure out the internals of everything. There's one in particular called a Bantha that somebody did that's kind of my holy grail of figuring out how to do it, because it's not easy. The designer was a very accomplished designer, and it's just taken me a while to figure those out. But I've got a lot of these already done. And then this list, the lower part of this list is ones that I would like to do. So this is the ones that I'll be focusing on for a while. You can see it starts with, since Lego has already done, you know, an X-Wing and a TIE Fighter and a Millennium Falcon, a lot of these are going to be really kind of deep dive lore legends ships, things from comic books and novels, things that may not have even really been seen, but maybe a fan has done them in a 3D program. So I'd like to take a crack at some of these. But you can see some of these are, you know, TIE experimental. These are some of the many TIE versions that we could do. A lot of these are just going to be variations on Star Destroyers or Dreadnoughts from the Empire or later empires like the Fell Empire. A lot of these you may have seen before, but not really sure what they were called, so we'll get to those as well. Somebody told me the other day that they wanted to see a T-Wing, so I think that's the one we're going to focus on today. I was actually a little surprised myself for not having done a T-Wing, because I know the ship, and it just kind of slipped my mind. So this is a T-Wing. No, not that. There we go. So this is a game, or this is a ship that you really only see in some video games, and I'll get some Wikipedia information here. But if you see, this is a lot of ships that may not have been in any movie at all. They may have only been in games or board games or video games or comic books. So you can see their appearances. This first appeared in Star Wars TIE Fighter. So I mean, it's been out a while, but it hasn't really seen the light of day. So what I tend to do with these is try to get a good starting point, a good image. This is obviously going to be a Rebel fighter. You can see the era that it was in was the Rebellion era, so it was around the time of anything from Rebels on Disney all the way through the end of, or past Return of the Jedi into the New Republic era. The New Republic is what the Rebel Alliance had set up. And then there was kind of an in-between era, and I forget what that's called, but that's where this ship will live, is sometime in there. It's kind of an adaptation of the people who designed the A-Wing and whatnot. So generally what I do with these is I'll get an image, and if it looks like something that's already been kind of done, I'll import a model from the Lego group and then just kind of add onto that. This one doesn't look like I can do that really well. I could probably take the front part of the X-Wing right here on the nose cone, but I don't mind starting fresh on this one. It looks like it's its own beast well enough that I can go with that. These are generally good pictures. I don't know who does these originally. They're on DeviantArt. They tend to take a few liberties with things, but they're generally good elevation photos. They've got some non-isometric, dead on side and top and front views that you can look at to get a good idea of it. But I generally just find one, a pretty good image to start with. So let's start with this one. This one looks pretty good. It's a little small, but it gives you a good idea. And you can see some people have already tried to build it out of Lego, but we're going to do a microfighter version. And microfighters specifically are kind of a chibi, super deformed, they're adorable little beasts. If you don't know what some of them look like, some of the original store-bought ones from Lego, they're just really small and they have a pilot. That's about it. And you can see that's, a snow speeder. And it has all the indications of what it's supposed to be, but it also has a figure in it. Lego also does things called mini fighters. They come in poly bags, and you may have seen some of those. They are, I don't think I've got one, but they tend to be small like that, but a few more pieces, or actually fewer pieces, no figure, and they come in bags. They don't come in boxes. And you can get those usually at the Lego store. Sometimes you can get them for free if you make a certain amount of your purchase is a certain size. So, all right, well, let's get to it. Again, this is my first time streaming, so I'm gonna play some music. I don't know if anybody's gonna hear it, but we'll see how it goes. And I'll turn the volume down a little bit so it's not overpowering. This is a group called Nakash. It's a chiptune, I won't say band, but it's this guy from Poland, I think. And I emailed him and I asked him about streaming, and he said that his label has an agreement with YouTube, so I don't plan on monetizing with this just yet, so I think I'm okay to do this, but if not, YouTube will replace it or just won't play. We'll see how that goes. So let's get started. Now obviously we're going to do this, these all kind of center around having a figure, and I don't have a figure saved on this computer just yet, so we'll just go ahead and get one. So we'll do now something I like to do, I guess I should give an introduction to the software I'm using too. It's called Studio or Stud.io. It's the software that Bricklink has put out. Now, Bricklink, for those of you who don't know, is I don't want a baby head. Bricklink is a site that you can buy loose Lego or Lego sets from, and it really enables a lot of model building, because you can design something in Lego Digital Designer (LDD) or a program like this, and then this program allows you to then upload it to their site, and you can order all the parts. You can also use a site like Rebrickable and put all the parts up on there, and it will tell you which, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit, which parts you already have. And then you can kind of go through your set and figure out, or your stash and figure out which ones you want, or which ones you need, and then you can order them from there. So we're going to do torso. And usually I have a minifigure already built out for this, but I don't right now. And I don't like the fact that I don't have. So let's put the head on there. And I like keeping these. Sometimes I snap, sometimes I don't. There we go, snap. Collision. I gotta remember to turn those on. I don't know why I have. There we go. Let's do that again. I don't know why I have the copy tool on here, but that might be a problem. Yeah, that's not, I don't want that at all. And I don't need this. And these guys are going to have to come up because they always sit up a little bit higher. So let's do this. Now what will happen too is I will generally have this guy as a, oh, you know what? Let's do this. So because I'm doing, come on, a specific, oh, that's going to get really annoying. A specific pilot for this, mostly just in the screen capture. So this has got to be orange. And I don't know if there's a specific orange for Rebel pilots or not. So we'll just do orange. And these are both going to be orange as well. And that's going to be orange as well. I'm also working on a Mac for the first time, so it may be a little rough. And I don't honestly know where... Okay, so he has white hands. A lot of these pilots I can reuse. Imperial officers, and I'm going to do black for these. And Rebel pilots tend to be reused a lot just because they're, all the ships that I have are either some sort of Rebel or Imperial. But the deeper you get into the lore of Star Wars, a lot of these figures don't exist. So, and I guess in this case, that's great. So, nope. We're going to do black for these guys. How do I do two at once? There we go. Alright, so for his head, let's give him a, let's see what we got for, that's probably good. Doesn't have to be really specific. We're going to make him flesh. I know there's a distinction between people who like the yellow and people who like the flesh. I personally kind of like the flesh. And I don't know why they didn't pick it. There we go. And then I'm going to need a helmet. Rebel. And let's give him just a basic. That's good. I'm a fan of the helmets that have the visors on them. They're relatively new. I like those a lot. But one of the failings, I will say, of Studio is that their minifigure selection isn't as great. And I don't think LDD is that great either. But, and he's going to be sitting anyway. No, I don't want those. So what happens is I'll do a lot of these. And I think we can make these black. And then leg, left. A lot of these figures are just to have something in the model. For image reasons, to give you an idea of like what it should be. But a lot of these other ships that I'm going to be designing are so far into the lore of Star Wars that they don't have any kind of minifigure, or you can't even really fake it. So there's a couple, if you check out my Instagram feed, I think it's Zadrian Kaleem, or maybe it's just Zadrian, Xadrian, and I'll link it in the description. There's a lot of ones that I've made up because there's just nothing I can do to make it look like the actual character from the movie or the book or whatever. Or there may not be a variation of that I can use. So there's a site that I haven't really partnered with, but we're in the early stages of talking about stuff. Big Kid Bricks. And if you're a fan of, or if you're on the Facebook Star Wars Lego Star Wars fan Facebook group, they're a contributing member there, and if you say you're from that group, you get a discount on ordering custom minifigures from their site. So we've been talking, and he's going to do some of my ships and have them available. Hi, Kitty. At shows. This is Fizzgig. Everybody say hi, Fizzgig. Say hi, Fizzgig. All right, you can go away now. He doesn't like it when I sit in this chair. He wants to be up on my lap. Anyway, so they do custom minifigures, and he's going to do some of the ones that I've requested for some ships. And in turn, he's going to sell some of my designs at shows. He's going to do box art for it and get the instructions that I've made for the build, and then have them available at the shows that he does. That's his job now. So he goes to a lot of conventions and Lego shows, and hopefully it'll work out. And I've asked if he could custom make a couple figures specifically, because I've got dozens that need to be made. Some of them are really weird. Some of them are just pretty standard stuff that Lego just hasn't done. One that came out recently was Suckas, who is a bounty hunter that you see in Empire Strikes Back, and he finally got into a set. So that's pretty exciting, because I've got a Mist Hunter ship that I'd like to get done. This is actually a pretty good view right there, so let's use that. So on with this, you can see this is going to be kind of a long nose, and then 3 engines on these kind of angled, almost articulated wings. I don't think the wings move. It doesn't look like any images have them moving, so we're probably pretty safe. So what we can reuse is ideas based off previous models, like the X-Wing. And let me see if I can find an X-Wing here. Problem is I've already got dozens of these things, so it's kind of hard to just pick them out. Yeah, so here's an X-Wing. So we'll probably be building it a lot like this. This is a little small compared to some of the other ones. Part of the problem that I have when I'm designing these is that I tend to go a little bigger than the official size. I'm still missing a little bit. Well, that's rotten. Huh, I have to figure out where that went. So you're not able to really see behind me, or behind you. I've got my whole storage area laid out. And just have to fix this real quick because I don't know where that other part went. So what I've been doing is trying to organize this a little better, and it's forever #forever sorting. And I'm using a lot of this material to then build, and I'll get to that in a second. We've got time. So if you see me reaching off camera, that's what I'm doing, is I'm getting bags and bins and boxes and drawers full of stuff to build. But a lot of the stuff that I have already built out, saved out, and I'll show you that in a second. Parted out from Lego and from what I've designed. So anyway, if you haven't already seen it, that's an X-Wing. That's a Microfighter X-Wing. This is an official Lego set. You can see the things open. This is going to be about 85 pieces. So what I try to do is I try to keep models around 85 to 100. Now you can see the size difference between even the X-Wing and the Corvus. I mean, it's a little bigger. This is about 105 pieces probably. Still not bad, but it's still a little big comparatively. And you can see that's the print. I don't know if you can see that or not. That's the print of the visor that I like. But I also like, I don't think I have one, the actual helmet with the visor in it. That's the one I like the best. But Studio doesn't have that, so we're not going to worry about that right now. So this is what Studio has, and we're just going to roll with it. But anyway, so this, you can see the nose cone of the X-Wing. If you know what an X-Wing looks like, they are roughly the same front. It's a little more squat. And it has to be a T-70 X-Wing. But you can see it's kind of similar, right? It's got kind of a long swept nose cone. There's going to be other ones like the E-Wing's going to be a little more similar to this than the X-Wing. But anyway, so we're probably going to build it a similar way in that it'll have a couple layers right along here of wedge plates, and then it'll have some sort of I don't even know what this is. It's a 2x2 slope, but it's like a modified slope. This little piece right here. So we might do something like that. And then he'll sit in between probably a couple wedge plates. So what I try to do first is figure out if there's anything distinguishable about this fighter that specifically needs to be done. Any part specifically that Lego has that will only, you know, this thing can only be done by a certain part or whatever. So I try to do that. Let's see. These aren't really very special, and I think I want to brick build them versus having like a wedge plate. So let's try just going, and a lot of this is trial and error. Like I'll do a couple things first, and then if I don't like the way it turns out, you know, you just go back and basically erase it and try it again. So let's try it with some basic techniques. Let's do a couple brackets underneath his butt. And I don't really like the way he sits on these specifically, so what I'm going to do is give him a little seat. So this will be a 2x2 tile with studs. And I've just gotten so used to building with, there we go, with Studio that a lot of these commands and knowing what the parts are called comes really easily. Oh, here's another thing I want to do. Because I'm going to be moving this guy around, I don't want to have to take, oh wait, I don't want to have to completely grab all the parts from him every time. So we're going to, no, we're just going to do a group. And that way I can move him. So now that I've got the figure, I can move him out of the way. We're going to put this guy here. And we're going to make that seat. These guys come in reddish brown, so let's just do that. While I'm talking, I'm going to try to figure out why the default is constantly going to the copy. That's not it. Shortcuts. Brick control. I don't know if I'm going to find it. It may just be something to do with Mac. Yeah, I'll look it up later. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to figure that out in the next couple minutes. I'll just have to deal with it constantly making a copy of everything. All right, so now that we've got that, we'll do some wedge plates. Now, these are pretty good, but they're a little big. Let's see if we can work with those. Here's the other thing about Rebel ships is if you notice, the way they're built in Lego, and you can see this in the X-Wing and I think mostly just the X-Wing, but they tend to look white, but they're actually kind of a really light gray. So the problem that you run into is, do you color it white or do you color it gray? You know, Lego went kind of the white route, but the front nose cone is, I would have done this in a tan, but that's just me, or maybe still white. It's just discolored enough. So that's always a struggle. So I'm going to leave this with kind of a white feel to it. And that's going to have a kind of a red stripe down the middle. So we can do this as, let's stick that guy under there maybe, color him red. So the other thing is, I may not be able to get through a whole model in one day, but I'm going to give these a shot. And then I'm going to go back to designing more, but I'll try to keep some available for doing some weekend streams. Now you can already see when this exclamation point shows up, that's just telling you that these don't exist in that color. So you have to change the color. And unfortunately, I have to change it to light bluish gray. So that's the other thing I try to do. A lot of the models that I found online, the reverse engineered ones that I've found on Flickr and stuff, they, not all of them, but a great many of them, there's a specific designer that will build in whatever color they can get. And it doesn't always exist. So if you like it, you can't build it based off those colors. A good example is there's a ship in the prequel era from Naboo. The designer's called like Nubian, but I hate saying that because it sounds weird. But they're Naboo ships. The very first one you see, the Padme's Royal Cruiser is one. There's one that's a diplomatic barge. It's the big one at the very beginning of episode 2 that blows up. And then in the later part of episode 2, there's her little yacht. Now, those are all Nubian designs. They're all like J-type or H-type, and they're chrome. So the problem is Lego doesn't make a lot of chrome. They do for certain things, grills and pipes and things for engines, but they don't make big sweeping wedge plates or regular 2x2 round bricks. So you have to kind of make do. So a lot of the designs that I've done are just in light gray, and you just kind of have to assume that they're chrome. But I was talking to the guy who runs Big Kid Bricks, and he's actually looking into chrome, being able to chrome paint or chrome plate some bricks. And I told him that if he does, he could sell, you know, we could buy a bunch of those and sell them because they're chrome plated as kits. We won't be able to sell them online because you'd have to chrome plate each one of them. But anyway, somebody's built a diplomatic barge out of chrome plated brick, and it's really fantastic looking, but you can't do it unless you're willing to get into some chemical engineering. So that being said, these are going to be gray. Let's take another look. So one thing that all microfighters tend to have is this little like windscreen, and I'm going to keep that as go-to on this. And these are generally colored transparent black. And you can see the front of the windscreen is transparent black, so I'm going to try to keep up with that a little bit. Now, this is going to be a trickier part because I want it to be not huge, or not very long in the front. But let's see how this rolls. That's pretty good, yeah. And then it's very angled, so it's part of the draw for building these types of fighters is that you're trying to do as much as you can with as few pieces as possible. So what happens, and this is a problem that shows up later if we ever do a capital ship, is that this needs to be curved. There we go. Is that the designs, this may be a bit big. Oh wow, I don't want that at all. There we go. Is that printed? Where does that look angled? Does that look angled to anybody else? I guess it is a little bit. May just be the rendering of the software. See, that's already, I don't like that, so we'll probably just have to do a, oh, you know what? Are those still coming up too high? And we can always add to it, so if we don't like it, we can, yeah, those still have to come up on something. Okay. So maybe not. But we can also do tiles. Oh no, round tile. This may be the part of the stream where I stop talking and just kind of focus on stuff. So I would do this, and I hate saying this, but I would do this during slow times at work. If I was waiting for something to scan or rebuild or reboot, or sometimes on my lunch hour, I would do this. And so a lot of these were done from my office. I decided that probably wasn't a good idea, so I cut back on doing that. I'll still do some Bricklink orders and things like that from work, but for the most part, I'm going to try to remove that from that environment, just so I don't get in too much trouble. Oh, you know what? I wonder if they have a there's a tile. Perfect. I wonder if it comes in white. It does. So I think that works pretty well right there. And there's nobody in the chat, so there's nobody here to tell me if the music's too loud. So if we see now that we've got that stripe and we want to run that stripe as far back as we can. So I might do wedge plate. Do a smaller one. That works pretty well, but maybe we do something else, because we're going to end up having to put wings, and it's not really a wing, it's a pylon frame or something like that. Technically, none of these things have like wings. They're just they're built completely on thrust and anti-grav repulsors and things like that. So so let's see. I want to maybe not have this one back here, but because we also want to keep it stable. And I'm going to get rid of the ground because I don't really like the ground. This doesn't go back that far from where he sits. I don't want it to sit too far back. So let's just stick something in there for now and see how this rolls. Oh, that copying thing is going to get on my nerves. I'm going to type it over here and see what happens. See if I can find out. Oh, that's Visual Studio. I may have to post this on Bricklink's site. So take a quick break and talk about Bricklink and the software. Again, Bricklink is I'm not sponsoring them or anything, or they're not sponsoring me. They are a site that's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like Etsy because it's not really creative. It's a third-party resellers of Lego sets, loose brick, instruction booklets, stickers. It's kind of like an Amazon feel to it. People keep saying it's like eBay, but it's not. It's a place that if I wanted to, I could go set up a shop and list all the brick that I've got. And then people could go and see the catalog of bricks that I've got and then buy them individually. And it may sound like a pain in the ass to part out 3 of, these things and then mail those off because you've got to set up shipping and everything like that. But it's a great place if you're buying in bulk, if you're wanting to finish out a model. And so they've developed software to compete with Lego Digital Designer. And it is a little better than Digital Designer in my opinion because I like the controls. I know a lot of people say they don't like the controls, but I really like them. And they also have older parts and retired parts. Digital Designer LDD doesn't have that. If a part's retired or old, they don't have that in their database anymore. So Studio does. So if somebody has it and you can buy it, and you can build with it, it's able to be purchased there. So I'm going to go into their forum and look up. No, not that. Studio. Something that they did late last year was they also did something called, I forget what the name of the project was called, but it was basically if you want to submit a model that you built in Studio and then upload it to their site, and if it gets enough votes, then they will work with the Lego group or with Bricklink to have that able to be or available for purchase by other people. And I forget what the program was called. It's like the A-Full Designer program. It was a limited palette, so you couldn't use all the parts that were in here. So I had a couple ideas that I tried working with, but a lot of the buildings that I had, bless you, a lot of the models that I had they had parts that weren't available in the palette, so I got frustrated and quit. So I'm going to have to redo this later because I don't want to take up time doing that now. But so this seems pretty stable so far. I'll put another one of these under here. So that's a little more stable. And then I think I can do Oh, you know what? It's maybe a little bumpy, but I think I get the look of that pretty good. Wedge plates. So that's pretty good. We'll just have to connect those. I might do electric. So many times I put electric plates in a model because for whatever reason they're listed first. These are way down in there. Where's just a regular? Oh, they're there. See, that's a little, I'm not kind of liking how that's looking. It's not as swoopy as I'd like it to be in the front. So this is part of the problem I'm running into. So I don't necessarily like these guys. So I think we're going to get rid of these guys. I'm going to keep that, but I think what we'll end up doing now is doing sort of a, let's just get rid of all this. I might keep that. This is going to be kind of a cheat, but what we'll probably do is do something with some studs on the sides. This may be too big, but we'll give it a shot. I am hoping that everybody's appreciating all the alerts. This is actually my girlfriend's Mac. She's letting me use it. I have a PC, I have a work PC that I can build stuff on, but this I think functions a little better with OBS for streaming. I may also have to go get more coffee in a minute, but we'll see how that goes. So I'm probably only going to do this for about an hour, hour and a half. I don't know, maybe 2. So, see, I want it to be tapered, but I don't want it to be too big. So I almost want to do, let's do this. Let's get rid of this guy. And let's get rid of that guy and these guys for just now. And maybe what we'll do is a three inverted. Let's do one of these guys. These are kind of clunky and big, and I don't like them a whole lot, but they might be able to be what is needed. Plus, they also fit the kind of the microfighter aesthetic a little bit better. Oh, whoops. It doesn't have that line in the middle of it. And I don't think these come in red. Oh, they do. Check that out. Well, that might solve a few problems. Let's see. That goes all the way to the front. So, I mean, we could at that point do light flash. I don't want light flash. So here's a trick I tend to do a little bit is get those I know there's probably got to be a better way to bring up parts all the time than just keep typing them, but I don't know. Hasn't bothered me yet. I'll probably need to put this guy back in here just so I can see what needs to be covered up. And this is going to be tricky because I don't want to cover up too much of him. So let's do 1 by 6, just see what it looks like. Can make that red. Actually, probably go back one. Yeah, that's pretty good. So the thing about microfighters too is it doesn't have to be exact. I don't think I've got one that's a good example of it not being exact, but I mean, you all know what a Star Destroyer looks like. If you don't know, if you're watching this, you're probably at least a Lego fan or a Star Wars fan, so that's Lego's official Star Destroyer. Now, we all know Star Destroyers are more of a kind of pyramid shape going down. It's a wedge shape, but it's very tapered. And there's none of that indication here. This isn't tapered. This is just layered brick. And there's even this gap in between some parts. So the idea is to make it recognizable. Like if you see this from a distance, you know, that's a Star Destroyer. You see it from the back, Star Destroyer. So the idea is to make it look similar, not exact. And I don't have a version. I don't really have anything put together, but I'm also doing a microfighter version of this ship soon. This is it's a Delta 7, but I can't remember if it's a Delta 7 or Delta 7B off the top of my head. One of them has the droid in the middle. One of them has the droid on the side. And also the thruster configuration is different. Anyway, so I'm going to do a microfighter of that, but it's going to be a lot smaller than this. And it's going to be just the shape. So the closer you can get to the shape, the better. But it doesn't have to be very detailed. The bigger the ship gets, the less detail you have. Big capital ships like Star Destroyers have guns all over them. They've got nodules and greebling, and you're just not able to capture that in a very small bit of space and part size. Lego only goes so small. I just did a design for it's called a Quasar Fire class cruiser carrier, which you can see in the show Rebels. It's Phoenix Squadron's home base after a fashion, but it's just a big triangle with like an underslung carrier space. So trying to get that, you have to make sure that there's a hangar space. You have to make sure that the front has like a cockpit or not a cockpit, but a bridge area. You have to make sure like the shield generators and the engines kind of look the same. So somebody commented that it wasn't up to, I'd done so many at this point. They're like, this isn't really up to your level of design. It seems a little boring and flat. And I'm like, well, and I had included like really small A-wings and TIE fighters with it. So that kind of bumped up the piece count. So I was trying to keep it as low piece count as I could while still having those fighters. So I went back and adjusted a little bit, and they said it looked a little better. You throw some little slopes on it. But it's really hard to do once you get to a certain size, because you don't want it to be huge. And see, this is already getting a little unwieldy. I might take this out and do another. this guy back on. I like using these tiles with just the 2 studs on them for seats because it's easier to get the figures in and out of. Especially if the studs are on sort of this back curve of their legs, they just pop right out. It's enough to hold them in there, but it's, you know, they're not stuck in there, so you're not just sitting there trying to wiggle these things out. These guys don't do that, I don't think. I don't think the designs, so you kind of have to wiggle them to get them to come out of there a little bit, and they're just, you know, flat 2x4s. It depends, although if you can't make it work, then you can't make it work. So that looks pretty good. I think though what I might do is replace these with 1x2x2 stud. That's not what they're called then. 1x2 brick stud. That's the thing, is you have to kind of remember what everything's called. Lego is going to call them different things than Bricklink. Everybody's got their own individual names for them. So I like this a little better because then we can add a little bit of, we can do this up top, but instead of bricks or a plate, let's do a tile. 5x6 tile in white. And I might change these to tiles too, but I may need to attach something to those down the line. Oh, and these aren't sitting really good. What's up? Why aren't you sitting really well? There we go. I might change how this looks, but no, still good. All right, so that's a pretty good size for that, and then I can put the 2 plates. Maybe one more, and then let's do a jumper. Made the joke the other day, and this is purely for you Lego people. I've been doing a lot of these designs, so everything's a smaller scale. So everything's like a lot of 1x1 and 1x2 something. Lego just this last year came out with 1x1 brackets, which is just wrecking my life. It's so amazing. And the thought that came to my head was, I really need, these are called, for those who don't know, these are some basic Lego here. This is a plate. Anything that's 1 width is a plate. Anything that's 3 is a brick. Anything without studs is a tile. Anything that's slanted like this is a slope. This is a modified plate with a jumper, which means it goes in between, you can see, it goes in between the 2 studs, so it's kind of like a jumper between the 2 studs. I don't know how it got that name, no idea, but I made the joke to myself, and then I realized it was ridiculous, that I could really use one of these days a 1x1 jumper plate. 1x1 by itself is just 1 stud, so I don't know why you would need a jumper plate for that, but I thought it was hilarious. Let's see. All right, we're coming up on an hour, so I'll probably go a little bit longer, but I don't want to bore everybody with this. If you have any comments about, this is my first time doing this, so I don't know if you can hear me and the music see what I'm doing, see what's going on the screen. This will all be saved later. So if you go back and watch it and you notice anything, just leave a comment about what could be done better. I'm going to talk to a couple friends of mine who do streaming all the time. Shout out Scruffy Nerfer, shout out Goldilocks and the Bear on Mixer, and hopefully they can help me out with a little bit. Scruffy Nerfer helped me out a lot with this, setting it up, so we'll see if this works. And then I'd also like to maybe get a camera and do some building. I could probably do, hey, look at this, I'm building stuff. I'll just move my camera down here and we'll build on the table kind of thing, but I don't think that will work really well. Plus you can see my gorgeous belly. Also, shirt. This is Will Heron Designs. He does a lot of simple, graphically friendly designs like this. Mostly Lego, not gonna lie, but he also has some other stuff. Will Heron Designs, Heron. Let's see now. So we got up to about here done. But the idea is you don't want to go too far back. And also, I don't know what the back looks like. I don't think that's something that I run into a lot of, is nobody has these, it looks a lot like that. Nobody has the back really, nobody cares what it looks like. So it's kind of hard. You have to kind of figure it out. Yeah. So we'll just make it up. Oh, there's a good one. That's kind of small. That almost looks exactly like an X-Wing. We could have done an X-Wing. See, this X-Wing doesn't even look like that. I wonder if I took those pieces off. Because this looks like it should have something on the back there, but I don't know. Okay. I'll go back to that later. But yeah, that looks like the back of an X-Wing. So we'll do that. But I don't like that image overall. Let's go back to the one that was really nice. I forgot which one we had up. Oh, was it this one? Yeah. So this is an R60. I wonder if this is closer. I wonder if it's the same designers as the R41, the Star Chaser. If it's the same. I'll have to look that up. The same manufacturer. That's the thing when you figure out you can get into designing and stuff like that. You start learning a lot about the weirdness that is ship design in the Star Wars universe, and how there's like shipyards and different companies did different things, and the progression of fighters through the years, the technology that improves, how one kind of leads into another. I think it's fun. I think it's fascinating, but I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. So I think right about here is where we'll do the wing pylons, which means maybe I'll do this as a 4 instead. I don't want to reuse that space. Let's do something else here. Let's make these engines. So I think off to the side here we'll do some engine work, and we'll just kind of maybe see how how big or small we need to make the pylons for it. So with these engines, this is probably a good, like I was saying earlier, if there's one piece that you can use to kind of identify the set. I don't think I have an example of that, but, well, kind of. So these are kind of a new one. And it's kind of upset me because somebody had built, these are new this year. This is a Naboo fighter. These just came out like a month ago. I also don't like this Lego. What is this? They're not, whatever. Anyway, here's another one that's new this year, which is kind of a thumb in the eye to some collectors, because this set came out as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive like 4 years ago. It's Darth Maul's Sith. No, it's the name is escaping me now. Nope, totally gone. I'm gonna look it up. You're gonna be shouting it while you're watching this later. Infiltrator, Sith Infiltrator. So anyway, about 5 years ago, when these were new, when microfighters were new, a bunch of Comic Cons did exclusives. So that's him sitting in his lightsaber doesn't want to fit in there. That's him with his thing. And you can see in here too that seat I was talking about. They came out with exclusives. San Diego Comic Con came out with a couple, and New York Comic Con came out with one. I think like a celebration. This may have been a celebration one. They came out with these exclusive microfighters, and then this year came out with, so the exclusive microfighter Comic Con set was like, the figure alone was like $200, or the whole set was $200. So what happens is, like, the figures themselves are worth a lot of money, but if you just want to build the set, here's an example. This was a celebration set, and again, it's a little floppy, but this is Boba Fett's Slave One. I didn't buy this for $200. If you go on Bricklink and see, it's $200 for the set in a tin can. Let's see if I can find it and I'll show you. It may be less now. What happens is it's the only time that minifigure is ever used. Now, this thing right here is not expensive, right? It's one by one cone, not expensive. They're a penny. You can get 100 of them for like $7. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So the problem is, Celeb, was it 4? IV 1? Yeah. And this is that article that people say Lego is better than gold or whatever. Oh, now it's down. It used to be, oh wait, no, let's do condition new. Now let's search. Yeah, okay, so brand new, new and sealed, $250. That's mostly because it's a collector's item. Fair enough, right? I have a friend who got, shout out to Tucker, Hobson, what's the hops? He got me some sets from San Diego last year, and I owe him money for them. I'm gonna get you $50 today, and then $50 payday. He got me some sets, and they were $50 each, so $100. But they're just these. Let me see if I can get them without losing. This is a long way to talk about microfighters again, but it's these two sets, right? So the Ant-Man and then that guy, the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. And the problem is these sets, just put these somewhere. Too much Lego. Said no one ever. This is $250, but if you look, let's see if I can bring up my list. So this is why this is a great site. I'm totally shilling for Bricklink right now. I'm also rolling over one of these days I'll have my phone camera out and I'll just show you all the workspace because it needs to be fixed. So you can build want lists, right? And these are all the want lists that I have. These are all, anything that says MF is stuff that I just need parts for, but anything that's like a named, this is, I've designed it and I've uploaded it to here, and I will order the parts for it later if I don't have all the parts. So you can see how many I'm going to be building. It's ridiculous. So if I just wanted this set for not $250. These are all the parts, right? These are the parts that I found online. So if I just wanted to buy all of these parts, you can hit buy all. It'll take you to a store. And it may not find all of them because it's got a restriction on country and minimum purchases if you put it in the search function. But you can buy all of them here. It's not $250. So if you don't want the collector's set, if you don't want the tin and the instruction and the experience and just the knowledge that you have this thing from an exclusive event, you just want to build it, you could totally do this. You could just buy the parts for it. I think the parts ended up costing me like $12 because I had most of them already. The thing I don't have, though, is I don't have the right figure. And that's something that I'd like to fix, only because I'm kind of a completionist. I think the figure I have is close, but you can see this is taking a while because I don't know what's going on with Bricklink this morning. So this is the actual figure, right? And this is the figure that I have. So I've got the baklava head, or the balaclava head, right? I don't think that's the right jetpack, but I don't know. Also, this one doesn't have a cape or a little side shoulder pauldron cape thing. This one does. Also, his legs are printed, and these aren't. So I don't have the right figure. So if I wanted to buy this guy to make sure that it was completely accurate, this is where the cost gets, right? So if I wanted a brand new one, it goes anywhere from $10 to $35 for a minifigure. For that guy, $10. Not terrible. So I can only assume that $200 comes from the fact that you have an exclusive thing that's unopened. It's just a collector's item. That's all it is. Even these San Diego sets that my friend got me while he was there, if I opened them up, they'd immediately lose all their value. Just like anything else that's a collector's item. So, long and short of it, that's kind of an in and out of Bricklink a little bit too. We might get into a little more of that. But what that means is you can get specialized parts, sometimes specialized figures on Bricklink and not worry about having to deal with the collector part of it. But in most cases, everything should be available either online or, if not through the software, then at least through the site. So what were we doing? We're working on these engines. So I don't know how I got on that tangent, but there's round. There are some parts that aren't available in Studio that I would like to use. Round tile. And again, if you guys have questions about Lego or Star Wars, feel free to drop them in the comments. Again, this is my first stream, and it's 9 in the morning on a Saturday, so I fully don't expect anybody to be here. But if I do late night sessions or anything like that, or when this goes up afterwards, I'll respond to comments as well. This seems to be a good tile. This looks like I went with the V19, the Torrent. Also, legit, this is my favorite song. Where is this? This one, oh, so good. I might turn this up a little bit. I really like Nakash. I've been listening to him for about 10 years. Just good stuff. It's a bit too long. So this is another thing you can look at. When you're building, you can kind of tell, like even if a part comes in that color, you can see the price down here may not be the best thing to do. If you get, 60 cents isn't that bad when you think about it. Although you have to think about when you're buying Lego sets. This is kind of a little primer about buying Lego. The cost per part is kind of a thing that you have to pay attention to. With things like Lego Star Wars or Harry Potter or back a few years ago when there was Lord of the Rings stuff, you were paying for the name. You were paying for the IP. There are sets called creator sets, or that's a creator line of sets that are a lot cheaper per part because you're not paying for a Gandalf or a Luke Skywalker or a Harry Potter figure or name. You're just paying for the brick. And so the idea is, if you find a set, you're in a store and you look at a set and it's 300 pieces, it should be about $30. So it's about 10 cents per piece average. Some pieces are more than other pieces, but it all comes out to about that. Little pieces like, let me show you this drawer of little pieces. Little pieces like this, these 1x1 stud or 1x1 plates, these you can get by the scads, by the gross, depending on the color too. For, technically those are 1 cent a piece because you can't really charge less than that, but it's more like 0.1 cent a piece. It's just ridiculous. But pieces like this are probably a little more expensive. They're a little more rare. This is the only one of this piece I have. And I forget what set it came in. So when you're looking at buying or building, you kind of gauge, like we're already up to 23 parts right now, right? So technically the set should cost about $2.30. But that piece is going to make it a little more expensive. So what you want to do is you want to find a lot of these exist in other colors. Now this is the right color for this. All these Technic axles are all black. They do come in other colors, but you get the ubiquitous black because that's going to give you a lower set cost. Especially if it's not visible. Like if there's no reason for this thing to be seen, then, give it a color that nobody cares about. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. I think I'll do 2x2 plates. Oops. Round plates. So here's something that I also run into a lot of is I don't know how to plate. I sometimes get a little carried away in designing something. Come on. And then forget to make it work in reality. Maybe we'll do 2. Like this may look great. These are going to be red. But it may not attach very well. Like right now I don't have a way to attach this. There's nothing for this to cling on to. There's no clips or hooks or brackets or anything that it can hold on to the main frame. So I'm going to have to go back. I want to get it ideal, and then I'll go back and look at it and say, okay, well now what do I need to do to make it work? So that's just going to be a white cone. And here's another thing. I could do a truncated cone. Make it a little smaller. And then see if anybody else has got any interpretations of those engines. Yeah, this is kind of gross, but all right. so let's do a smaller cone on top of it. It's a little darker. And I will admit there are times when I don't know the difference between that cone and that cone. And I know the difference is written right here, without top groove, with top groove. Let me see if I can show you what they look like. You get one with the top groove and without a top groove. I don't think I have an example of it in the same color. Oh yeah, here we go. So these are with top groove. I don't know if you can see that. Without top groove. So they're, I mean, you tell me. Also, and we'll get into this many times over the next couple whatevers. Without top groove, older part. With top groove, newer part. This, light gray. This, light blue gray. And you may think, well, what the F is the difference? Well, I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference, and let's see if we can color this light blue gray. The difference is, this one is 40 cents older. This one is 4 cents newer. Because they don't make these anymore, so the inventory, the global inventory is dwindling, right? People have it in their collections or they have it in old sets, but Lego's not making them anymore, so there's not a replenishment of those parts. So they become more rare. So I try to remember to use the newer parts, but sometimes I don't. I also have to remember to put these back on my castle. One of these times I will pan around and show you what I've got built. I don't have many things built that are mine. I usually build something and then take it apart right away. Let's see. Red thrust, blue thrust. Let's go. There's blue thrust again. Let's go blue. So this doesn't really mean anything, but it's a nice little thing that I do on all the sets because most of them have them. And this is going to be trans light blue. All right, so now the beauty of this is I think these are all, yeah, those are all the same. So now I can just copy, paste, copy, paste. All right, I think I'm going to kill it. We've been running about an hour and a half. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to finish this up, and then I'll show you guys the finished product. I think all I'm going to have to do is figure out how to attach these guys here and some pontoons, and then we'll put a little back end on this thing that kind of looks X-Wing-ish. Probably going to be, I can do that real quick. I'll show you what that's going to look like. I'm going to bracket. They just made, and I'm so stoked about this, for all you Lego people out there, this is a huge thing. They just made, there's a site called The New Elemental, which is a great blog about building and building techniques and new parts that come out, new sets, that kind of thing. There's a new part. These are relatively new anyway. These are only a few years old, these small brackets, which have been great to build with. And then the 1x1 bracket I was talking about earlier, that's even smaller. These things are awesome. They're so great for microfighters. You used to have to do these like neck braces, neck brackets that go on the minifigures to do fun stuff like this. You don't have to do that anymore. These are a little more solid. They're really great. But anyway, so there's a new piece that is this, but only one plate right here. It's so great. I'm so excited to start using that. These are a little pricey in that color, so I'm going to do gray. That's 10 cents. That's 9 cents. That's pretty good. So this is going to go on the back here, some level, right about there. And then we'll likely do wedge plate. That guy. So the other thing you got to worry about with building small, I don't know if that's going to be, I think that may be too wide, but that's the look we're going for. See that look right there? I think we may have to turn that. The other thing that I want to worry about, and I've got another idea, is stability. You don't want to, like some of the ones, this is a little better. That's better. But I think I want to do, see, I don't like two things here. Flip it around. I don't like that there's a seam between the brackets and a seam between the wedges, the wedge plates. I don't like that. That doesn't seem strong to me. At this level, at this dimension, in these few parts, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you saw these guys are not put together well, my designs, but they're still swooshable, right? You can still play with them, even though this is really finicky because it's so small. If it were larger, maybe even larger than this is still very swooshable, but it's very well put together. I had a ship, and if you look up my screen name, Zadrian, Xadrian, Zadrian Lego, you might be able to find it. Built a huge white spaceship that was probably, I don't know, 40 inches tall or something like that, and it was really awkward. And so a lot of stability issues came into play with that, and it was not swooshable. It was a display only kind of thing. But there were a lot of times when I was concerned about you cover up a seam completely with another solid piece, right? So if you have two pieces here, you don't have two other pieces here. You have one piece here to hold those together. So that said, don't like this. So I'll probably do another one of these. And these are expensive at white too. So let's change those to gray. These things are ubiquitous. They came with, there was only a handful of them at one time, but then they did brick heads, and now these things are everywhere. So you can get these for peanuts. So that's pretty good right there. That's a pretty good look. It actually may need to go up a little bit, which I don't like. That's probably even better. So then what I'll have to do is do a bracket. I think these come in. I think they come in gray. But do they come better in dark gray? Or less expensive? Yes. Well, wait. Yeah, dark gray. Dark blue gray. That's another color that changed hands over the years. So I don't know if that'll fit though. And that's another thing, these stud. Yeah, there's an offset. Kind of figured there would be. A few years ago, they changed colors from dark gray to dark blue gray to light blue gray. And it's not terribly obvious in some instances, but in others it's just, it depends on the age of the brick too. So now that leaves a gap. All right, so what I have to do is get this guy out of there. Put that guy there, that guy there. I just can't help bobbing my head to this music. This might be a little tall, but we'll give it a shot. And again, even if it's a hidden brick, if you can get a little cheaper on them, like that's 6 cents, it's 11 cents, 5 cents. Let's do that. Sometimes primary colors are, that's too tall. Primary colors are very inexpensive. 1x2 plates. White and black, oddly, are not as inexpensive as some primary colors. It really depends on how much, how many sets they showed up in. All right, that works great. I like how it's a little flush on the back there. Gives us a little room to put some stuff under here, some boat bottoms or some slopes. And then I think I am going to end up taking these down to a 4. So it'll start here. That way I'll have some room to play with attaching these engine pylons, because I'm going to have to do, if you look at it, it's angled. So I'm going to have to put some sort of hinge. Oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to have to put some sort of hinge on here to angle these down. And this one's a little shorter up top, so at most it'll have to sit about that high, because I don't want it to bump into his head too much. But I'll work on that a little later. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll try to do this at least once a week, if not more. I might pick a different time so more people can show up, but we'll see how that goes. Thanks for coming by.